Welcome to the MMA Roadshow episode number 560. This is Cold Coffee. No, it is not John Morgan. Where is John Morgan? We don't even know where John Morgan is. We thought we were going to hear from him today, but he's just MIA. So what did I do? I went and I reached deep into the friend pool to find two, not just average guys, as some people would say, but two stellar individuals to fill in. One of them is the co-host and co-creator of the MMA Junkie radio, Goze. I feel weird when I say Brian Garcia. It's just
Me
like,
too.
Who the hell is Brian?
who the hell is Brian? And who the hell is that other voice you just heard? That might be my closest competitor in this year's MMA Junkie staff picks. The guy that's out of Boston. He's the Boston shot caller. It's Nolan King. What's up, fellas? How are you guys doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Can't complain. It is interesting that when John left from Junkie a couple of years ago, you always say there's big shoes to fill, right? But now we see the conversion rate here, where you need two of us to fill his shoes. So it has now been quantified officially.
This show might actually be for those of you who watch Spinning Back Click. This is the first 30 minutes before the show starts.
Yeah.
Right. And like somebody else just sitting here talking the same stuff anyway.
Yeah, waiting for everybody to show up. Goze is always the first to show up. So, we'll take them behind the curtain. We always have a call time 30 minutes before Spinning Back Click runs, just so we could go over the rundown of the show, make sure everybody's there, make sure nobody's missing, make sure everybody's connection's good, frame up the shots. And usually Goze is always right on the dot, 30 minutes out. Nolan hops in there shortly after that, and then we usually just shoot the shit until we get in the show. So it's always kind of funny. So that being said, even though I was teasing John about being MIA, John is actually taping CFFC right now live yesterday, and I'll let him talk about it next week. But he had a bunch of stuff that's going on with his new role as general manager. I think it's become much more of a thing than I think anybody ever would have thought. I think when they were like, "Hey, you want to take more of a role?" and he's like, "Sure, yeah, let's do it." This role has really taken on a lot of stuff. I know that the guys over there really appreciating everything he does. And, even from when he was doing like the stuff in the truck to just doing commentary, and now he's taken on this major, administration role. And I think that really, really has, kind of throw his schedule up for a loop. So John was willing to try to, again, do something after this show or try to get it tomorrow. And I was like, brother, we got it. I hit up two big dogs. And I'm grateful that you guys are, able to hop on. So we'll give John the hall pass for today, so he can take care of his business and stuff. So thank you again, guys, for doing that. And before we talk about fights, before we talk about, all the other stuff, on a more serious note, we want to send a lot of love and healing vibes and prayer and thoughts and anything that you guys believe in to a close colleague of ours that is currently dealing with some health issues, some very serious stuff. And he's a beloved friend of ours. The name hasn't been released out in public, so I'm not going to say anything, but if you guys are friends of ours, you understand that what our friends mean to us. And if you're praying type, if you're just energy type, if you're just, whatever, if you can send some thoughts to our friend, that would be incredible, because he could definitely need it in his family. So just felt like we had to get that out of the way before we talk about, face punching and, all the other, entertainment stuff of what this sport is, the real life stuff out there, so, especially around the time of the holidays, it's always a super tough time. This is the time everybody's supposed to be enjoying with their families and good memories, but this is definitely a reminder of real stuff out there. So when you get a chance, hug your loved ones, hug your friends, tell your people you love them. Every day is definitely special in that, and nothing's guaranteed. So, well, that's a way to downer on the show right from the get-go. So how do we transition from that? Let's transition to maybe not. I don't want to first go right now to the greatest boxing match ever, as advertised, at least. But I'm going to take you guys back. It's a little bit dated now, but I want to take you guys back to the last Vegas show, Vegas 112, Cop versus Royval. I think it was 112, right? Or was that 113? think it was
112, I
112.
believe. Yep.
Yeah, with Manel Kopp versus Brandon Royval. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that overall performance. You guys, I know a lot of people going into it that week, I think a lot of people definitely gave Royval, definitely his props, but it was hard to kind of discount what Manel Kopp was coming into. But I think there was definitely a lot of questions on both sides. But, I guess what were your guys' thoughts on that overall, the fight, and then at the very end, and I'll let you, so we don't go on it too long. A lot of people are saying, what this fight means. Does this fight mean that he's gonna get the next title shot? So give me your thoughts on just the fight, and what do you think is next for Manel Kopp after that fight? And it could be whoever wants to. It's a free form.
I'll jump in. I think it's great for the flyweight division. Obviously, it was a very impressive performance from Kopp. If you want to go out there and make a statement and make people forget about some of your shortcomings, whether it was pulling out of fights, whether it was weight misses, whether it was your struggles earlier on in your UFC career when you had a lot of hype, he did all that with that performance, I thought, and he gave us a really good option for Joshua Van. I mean, the smack talk is already there. As we talked about on Spinning Backclick, the plungers have been pulled out and they're being suctioned on and off of an 80-year-old man's nipples on Instagram, which got the people going on Monday when that was referenced. If you guys want to go back to Spinning Backclick and watch Goze's head almost explode when we cut back from me talking, he did a good job holding it in, but I just Goze, you had some veins popping out of your forehead, but no, I mean it's great for the division. Flyweight's really fun right now. It's really deep. There's a lot of storylines, a lot of characters, and I think we're far way away from a couple of years ago when the UFC was thinking of getting rid of it. It's good times at 125.
Before we get your thoughts on that, who shared the screenshot to the Slack channel of that old man with the plungers? Was that you?
Yeah.
So Nolan shared it to our Slack channel, and Simon Samano, the managing editor for Junkie, just logs in. He's like, "What am I looking at?" It was kind of like one of those you got to be there moments. But yeah, that was funny. And I hadn't seen that until you guys mentioned it, and then I watched it and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Because you have to do it with the audio, because I think I played it first without the audio, and with the audio is what really makes it. So
without the audio, it gets a little confusing.
Yeah, that's what made me laugh. Was I saw it first. Sometimes at night when I can't sleep, I'll just kind of look, and I don't want to play it loud because I don't want to wake up my girlfriend. So I heard it with no audio. So I'm like, "What is going on? This old man's just plunging the hell out of his nipples. Why?" And then it wasn't until like the next morning that I realized it was music to it. So but I felt like I would be the only human being on earth that saw that. So when Nolan brought it up, I was like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to see how he ties this in."
It's so funny how a lot of us have similar algorithms. I have made it my life's purpose that when my algorithm is already broken on Instagram, maybe not so much on Twitter, that I always share it to people. And I've recently started sharing to Nolan. So Nolan, I apologize, because now I've made a mission to ruin your algorithm as well. I literally, so when I have friends now, I'll send something. They're like, "Oh, I just saw this." I was like, "Yep, we're in sync. I broke your algorithm." I'm like, "It's done. It's done." So I love it. So it's so funny that the fact that, us within our own sort of like sphere, I think obviously we're searching a lot of the same sort of shit. But I know a lot of stuff that I'm searching, probably others aren't searching. So I got to just share the wealth a little bit. Goze, your thoughts on how that the battle came out with the Manel Kopp, and what do you think's next for that division?
I think it was super interesting because when you think about it, the pay-per-view made this mean so much more, with Pantoja going out like that. Now these fights mean even more. And so the performance from Kopp, in my opinion, was one of the best ones the entire year. He did not overuse anything. Like everything that he threw out there had a purpose. He had this type of game plan where you almost felt like, is this predetermined? Like he knows where this dude's going every step of this way. And when he finally landed that shot, it was like, man, this guy really made a statement. And that's what you have to do, especially in a "what have you done for me lately" type of sport. And when you're battling another guy like Tatsuro Taira, that is a very likable guy. I think a lot of people would have been just fine if that's the next guy. But now you have a win over that guy, and you go out and you cut out your WWE promo. I don't know how they ignore him.
Yeah. Did you guys, it's funny, like, because I know in the past, Manel's been very, very, like, I don't know, his emotions have been very, very he did during the fight weeks, and a lot of times his weight cut and other stuff, but I felt like he was maybe not more mature. I don't know. In the post fight, did it feel like there was a more mature Manel, maybe even afterwards or during that fight week? Do you feel like things have changed a little bit? Maybe he's grasping that how close he actually is to that title shot and he's trying to do the right things. Do you feel like he's changed a little?
There's a lot of diaper talk, so I'm not really sure, but
that was I forgot about the diaper talk. There's the translation issue.
Yeah. I think so. I think the thing is for me, like, even though that was kind of a weird promo and I think we're still trying to figure it out.
I totally forgot about the diaper.
Yeah.
See, this is why you revisit stuff. Even if it's a little bit old, you revisit these gems and you're reminded of what greatness.
But I will say, I think it's kind of working. Like, he's being like, I get a kick out of him. Even when he kind of goes off where he's overboard with whatever he says, I think he's promoting the fight really well. He's getting people emotionally invested. It's not, I think today there's a lot of people that try like way too hard to say something witty or smack talk or whatever. But I think with him, at least it's outside the box, right? And he seems like him and Van have had good banter. So I think he's coming into his own. And I think maybe just the pressure of coming over when he first came over from Ryzen, where he was supposed to be the guy, right? A big signing to make an immediate impact, and then he struggles. Maybe the pressure was off a little bit when he went in there and the lights were brightest and he failed. I wonder if that I don't know, that can change people a little bit when the big fear, the big concern of not winning happens, right? And it's like, oh, well, I have another fight, I have another opportunity. So I think he's doing a good job handling it. And yeah, I agree with you. I think we've seen some growth on the mental side.
Do you think it'd be a shame, or do you think because I think a lot of us were before the accident happened or the injury happened that ended that fight, we knew that Tyra was ringside. We knew that it felt like there was going to be the walkout. So almost in my brain was like, okay, well, I've already made peace that's going to be the next fight. And then when you don't see that, and then you have this fight happen with Manel and the way that he was able to go out there, would you feel bad for Tyra if they do go ahead and say, okay, it should be Manel Kopp next? I mean, do you feel bad if they did skip over Tyra?
I think a little bit, just because the language barrier, who knows? He could have fired back something just as good.
Yeah,
and we would have all kind of ate that up. But because of that language barrier, it's just kind of like one less peg that he has to put into the puzzle. And that part maybe hurts a little bit. So I do feel bad for him, but I also feel like they're all just going to get their shot eventually. They're all that good. But a lot of it has to do with what Pantoja's deal is. When is he going to come back? And when he does come back, how do you not give him an immediate shot? So if you don't get this spot right here, you might have to wait 2 spots. So that part does kind of hurt, I think, a little bit for a guy like Tyra.
Have we heard anything about Pantoja for an injury update or anything at this point?
So he said that it was his, because they kept saying that it was his shoulder, right? But it was
at least Dana kept trying to say it with the shoulder.
Yeah, I saw that Ariel put out that he had talked to his team or his coach, or maybe Parumpa had done some interviews where he said it was actually his elbow. And then I saw Dana did a podcast the other day where he said it was both, that he had received the correct and incorrect information because there were 2 injuries. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but it definitely seems like perhaps that was for whatever reason misreported on fight night, which is crazy considering the amount of times that it was said throughout,
and shown on the screen.
Yeah. So, I don't think we've really gotten a firm update though on timeline from Pantoja yet.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, hopefully he comes back soon. I mean, I know it was hard to watch, and every time they replay it in slow motion, it was just like, can you please stop playing this? Like,
they showed it like 100 times.
It was almost to the point I was getting like squeamish. I just stopped looking at the screen, but I think I was in the media room just sort of yelling like, stop showing this thing. It was just ridiculous. One last thing on the Manel Kopp and then with the Tyra, do you believe when he says that he's the bigger star over in Japan? Like he says, I'd walk down the streets and people would know who I am, but nobody knows who Tyra is. Do you think I don't follow a lot of publications over there, but I assume Tyra is pretty decently known and popular over there. I forgot that Kopp was over there, but I find that pretty hard to believe. Do you think that's just another way of he's just sort of talking it up to try to boost himself over Tyra, or do you think that there's some real validity as for who is the actual bigger star over there?
I think there's a tiny bit of validity, and I'm going to tell you why. I've been to Japan, and I think because I look different than everyone else, everybody turns around and looked at me. it could just be that, like
Yeah.
Tyra kind of just blends in, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know that everybody's going, oh my God, that's Satoru Tyra every time somebody walks by. But if a guy like Manel Kopp walks by, you're going to go, who is that? And then you're going to go, oh, that's Manel Kopp. I could see a little bit to that. But if you made a line that says, come meet Tetsuro Taira or come meet Manel Kopp, I think they go in the Taira line.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, I think Japan, what I've picked up on, they seem to get a lot more connected to the fighters that compete there than other places. Like, Russia brings in guys from Brazil or the US to fight some of their stars. And even if they win, it's like, whoop-de-doo. There, I mean, we saw it with Bellator where, for example, the Pitbull brothers would go over and do Ryzen there. And then the next time they'd come back, they'd explode. Or even like they were smart. Sometimes they'd tweet in Japanese and they'd get way more retweets than they would get if they had posted something in Portuguese or English. So I do think there is some validity to them being very passionate about the fighters that have competed there, paying attention to the local events, whether Ryzen or otherwise. So it's tough to say. Tyra's never really he fought on the regional scene a little bit over in that area, but like when he became a star, he was always here. So I think Kopp might be onto something there, as he's already shown that he can draw. He could play the bad guy. He fought a lot of Japanese fighters over there, and he can kind of carry that sort of card. So I actually think there's a lot of validity to it.
Yeah,
that's crazy. About a guy like a Phil Baroni or a Josh Barnett and how beloved they were in Japan because they love pro wrestling over there. That's a big part of the culture. And when those guys play that shtick up a little bit, they tend to really like those types of people. So I could see them really liking Manel Kopp over there.
Yeah, and so to peel the curtain back a little bit, I remember talking actually to, it must have been CJ Tuttle with Bellator back. Now he's with PFL, but I remember him telling me like going over there and when because they would go over when they would use some of the Bellator guys on that Ryzen end of the year show, and I remember him saying like, walking around with Coker there is like probably what like happens to Dana here. And he sent a video one time and there's like people like swarming Scott Coker, which I'm sure you can imagine like what his reaction was to that, or, just kind of being befuddled. And it's really crazy how passionate those people are over there about stuff like that. Yeah.
And so that's what happens to you when you walk over there? They take lots of pictures for you? Is that what you were saying?
They didn't swarm me, but they did kind of look like, who is he? He's definitely not from here.
Yeah.
Who's this man asking for Lomo Saltado all the time?
I feel bad. I haven't had those experiences over there, and I've been over there. Maybe they have looked at me, but they're just like, no, he's just a weirdo like the rest of us or something. But I've never had those. Are
you a sushi guy, Goze?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I love me some sushi. We should get some sushi one of those days.
You know what though? Here's what I learned from Roxanne Modafferi. The sushi over there, they don't think it's a big deal. They actually like the sushi that we do here in the United States. They're like, you guys make it all crazy. Ours is kind of boring. So when I went over there, that was the first thing I wanted. And they were like, why? Why do you want to eat here? It's so much better where you're from. And the fish is good, but they were right. It's like a little bit more bland over there.
That's awesome.
I hope I didn't burst your bubble.
No.
It burst my bubble a little bit.
Well, it's funny. Well, speaking of, now we're going to go down the food talk. When you eat sushi and stuff over there, it's funny because like when you think about over here, you say if you're served a piece of sushi where it's, the slice of fish on top of the rice, all the Americans just scoop it up with their hand or their sticks, and then they just dip the whole thing into soy sauce. The soy sauce runs all up through the rice, and then they put it all in. Then you get that taste of like soy sauce with a little bit of fish. Over there, or how the proper way I've always been told of how they would prefer you eat it, and let alone sometimes when the sushi chef is making it, they've already put stuff on it. They don't want you to dip anything in it, but they do understand that you will. But say you scoop up the piece of sushi with your chopsticks, you're supposed to turn it over and then lightly dab the fish itself into the soy sauce and then eat it. Because if you put the rice is going to soak up the soy sauce, and the rice has already been prepared so that it has. A lot of times they put like sushi vinegar on it, so it gets a little tartness within the rice. So the rice has been flavored how they want you to taste the rice. And so if you want soy sauce, they're like, well, flip it over, put a little bit of the soy sauce on the fish, then you could taste the rice how it's supposed to, and then you have a little bit of the other stuff. And I was but when you think about it, it's so true, because when we dip it in how we always do it, you're just soaking up all that soy sauce, and all you're doing is having a nice big soy sauce bath, which is usually also where a lot of people here would take wasabi and smash it into the soy sauce and blend it all in. So then you get like wasabi soy sauce. They don't really do that over there either. They look at you and they're like, what are you doing? Yeah. They're like, you're desecrating our food, bro. Stop, So yeah, well, whatever. That's enough of the food talk. There's your Tokyo food talk. We could talk Tokyo forever. I love me some Tokyo. Lastly, just dealing with like the UFC Vegas 12, it also signaled the end of the ESPN era. I guess, you guys have been around the sport for a long time. You've seen different iterations from when it was on Fuel to when it was on Spike, and then it was on Fox, and then, it was on the ESPN. I guess looking back on that time, what it did for the sport, the platform, what are your thoughts on the ESPN era? Was it a good thing? Do you appreciate what it did for the sport? Was it just more trouble than anything? I mean, I guess what are your sort of overall thoughts on that time period of the UFC and the ESPN era? Either one can start. Go ahead, Nolan.
Okay. I was going to say, I think it was great for the UFC. It was good for the sport getting more mainstream, right? Like I think just the platform was massive for the organization. I think especially during COVID, like the fact that it was on ESPN when there wasn't sports running. Like there's a lot of people that I know in my personal life. This might be a little anecdotal, but like I think a lot of people external friends and things picked up their fandom from the UFC over that period of time. So I think it was great there. Obviously the UFC made a lot of money. I do feel as a fan that witnessed the whole thing, I thought that and this might be ESPN, it might be UFC, I'm not sure. It just might be the way that the world is. But I do think that the product sometimes now was a little bit, I don't want to say necessarily, I think it's a little watered down. And it might be because there's more events. It might be because there's tiers. I think some of the pay-per-views are better than they ever were before, but then the fight nights are worse. So I think the structure changed a lot, and I don't know if that was due to ESPN's demand of what they could put on the schedule, what they wanted, or if it was just that there's more fighters or the UFC felt there was opportunity to grow there. But that would be maybe the downside, is I think I used to maybe look forward to and enjoy some of the cards a little bit more during the FS1 era. But it could just be the way that it was, because we had Conor then, we had Ronda then, we had those sort of things going on as well.
Yep. And I will say about the ESPN, I mean, like FS1 didn't have an app that I can remember. I mean, like people wanted to crap on the app. They wanted to crap on, it's freezing on my phone. Oh, it's freezing on my Roku. Oh, the ESPN app. I'm like, bro, that wasn't even there before this came. So, I guess it was a nice problem to have. But I guess if you're going to use somebody as your broadcast partner and they say, here's your show, you want it to be readily available. Like if you're going to make it public facing, it has to work. But for the most part, I never really had an issue on my end on my Roku. I don't know if that platform is more solid than if I just went straight to it or straight through the ESPN app or, through a desktop or a browser. But I never really had the issues that a lot of people, I know at times seem to have. I mean, did we get kicked out on occasion? Sure. But, I think that's a streaming platform. It happens, but, I think they definitely get some credit in the fact of, like you said, like it's one thing when we talk about this sport and people that are outside of the bubble are like, okay, yeah, I hear you talking about that thing. I don't really see it. I don't really see the advertising. But I kind of understand what you're saying. But when you put it on ESPN and they're going to look for their college football or they're going to look for their baseball game or whatever, and then they see this box that says, oh, the UFC event or the different shows, and it kind of puts it in their face and they're like, oh shit, I guess that was more of a mainstream moment for them because they didn't have to jump into our bubble. It was presented to them within their bubble already, and then it started creating some interest. So yeah, I mean, it was amazing to see, even from the casuals that became more fans just for the fact of it became more legitimized, I guess, if you will, because it was on such a large platform. But Goze, what's your overall thoughts on that ESPN era?
I think that's the biggest thing. I think it legitimized the sport. When you think of when you would go on ESPN, the tabs at the top, it would basically tell you what is popping in the sports world. And to get to MMA, you'd have to click other, and then you'd have to find it, next to pickleball or whatever was going on at the time.
Cricket.
And then once it went to ESPN, you saw now it became one of those top ones, where you didn't have to do that. And when you think about all of the shows that the demand made them have so many shows, think of the roster at the beginning of all this, how not small, but where it was at compared to the roster size today. It definitely opened the doors for more fighters to get looks early on. They didn't have to really battle through all these smaller shows to get there. You get a couple for experience, but they were getting thrown right into Dana White's Contender Series, all that stuff. So it helped legitimize the sport. I think it strengthened the sport. The only thing I didn't like about it was I did the app the same way you do, Kenny, through Roku, and I didn't have too many problems. But when you go back, if you're not watching it live and you went back to try and find stuff, they really did make it tough, man, for you to find stuff. And that part I felt like they could have fixed. The commercials, just playing one commercial over and over, that was torture, man. I didn't like that. Certain things like that, I think they really could have fixed fairly easily, and a lot of people would have been happy. But overall, I think it upped the level of our sport, and you got to appreciate that. Remember back in the day where you could watch UFC on ESPN? They had that show, but it was like at midnight or 1 a.m.
Yeah, Franklin McNeil and John Anik, and
we were so happy about that. I think Rashad Evans was part of that.
Yeah, Kenny, Florian.
Now they were all over, so we'll have to see what Paramount brings, but hopefully we take another step forward.
Yeah, it's funny. Go ahead.
I was going to say it'll be interesting to see like what ESPN, how they continue to cover the sport, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like it was an amicable split. They just our media colleague Brett Okamoto just announced that he re-signed with them, so they're not washing their hand. They're not washing their hands of it. But I do wonder how much they'll maintain their level of interest in covering it on SportsCenter per se, or doing a profile piece here and there with Andreas Hale, or if it will be more of a they'll more focus on things that are in their own best interest.
Yeah, I could definitely see if some sort of highlight moment, that if it's a bit of a slow day, that maybe it gets thrown in the rotation, but do they give it the same love to maybe put it in the top 10 highlights of the day? I think it's going to have to be a really slow day for it to get one of those, but I definitely do think that they're still going to pay it some mind. So I'm grateful to hear that our colleagues that work over there are still getting to do that work. It definitely gives you hope. But yeah, as for like the level of creating standalone shows and that such for it, I don't think we're going to see that anymore. They spent a lot of money on that. I mean, they did some really, really cool shows that there were so many shows I could never keep up with it. But, I know some people that just watch everything. I don't watch everything. So there's shows on there that I've never even watched. I don't anticipate that it staying that way, but it was still great effort on their part. Before we jump over to Paramount, because I know, Nolan, you even talked about the other day, because I know you put a post out and people were talking about the price of it. Did you guys see that Netflix? I pay for the no ad version. Did you happen to catch the graphic that came onto the screen? At least it did for me. When I first logged into it, a little thing popped on the bottom that says your subscription has been upgraded to allow ads on certain live events or whatever. Like it's a good thing. Like, oh, you've been awarded that now you can watch ads. I'm like, I get what they're trying to do, because now with these sporting events, for them to pay the kind of money, I don't think they'll ever be able to just take money from membership money and pay that. They're going to need the sponsorship stuff. But I thought that was kind of a interesting way of sort of phrasing it. I didn't know if either one of you logged in and saw that on screen last night.
I didn't see it, but it reminds me of when we get the cybersecurity thing we have to do for work, and they always write like in the title of the email, like, congratulations, cybersecurity's been added to your task list. Oh, I'm just like, this seems like some sort of gaslighting going on, but
so we have to do training for the network. Gannett sends these things out, and you have to take these mandatory trainings, like cybersecurity, what's the other one? Sexual harassment, all the other ones. Yeah. So like when the email comes to tell you that it's been assigned to you, it always starts off by saying, congratulations, you've been assigned this piece of work you have to do, which is just kind of a silly, funny way. But that's so funny. I forget about that, but I do chuckle every time I see that. It's like, oh, congrats, you get more work.
I actually have a list of names that have been, none of the names on those things that we do are real names that you ever hear out on the street.
Oh, you tried to look them up?
I got so fed up that I started writing them down, and I probably have like 20 of them. And I want to I think when I get to 50, I'm gonna reveal the list. But there's just names. Depot? You know anybody named
Oh
Depot?
yeah.
Like
But if you ever
Depot.
see him, you're gonna be like, bro, how did that work out? That when you had
Mhm.
you said those things to that girl, we sent all those ideas. I'm glad that you thanked me for my suggestion. You know, did you
Mhm.
did you actually
I
employ
can't
it?
wait to file that complaint and them go, who said that? Goze? What kind of name is that? What's he complaining about?
Uh, and last one, and I appreciate you guys. I said I wasn't gonna keep you on here long, and I'm like, oh man,
No,
I'm
you're
I'm,
good.
I'm already
No, got
longer
all the
than what
time in the
I.
world.
Paramount Plus, Nolan, you put a text out the other day of what the prices would. If you want to kind of reiterate that, and do you feel that there's going to be a pricing change at some point?
I mean, I would assume after like maybe a year, we'll probably go up a little, and then kind of like what we saw with the ESPN era. But I gotta say, huge win for the fans. I still
Yep.
am a little like unsure of how Paramount's going to make all their money back, but it was
Yep.
over. If you were a UFC fan, you wanted to watch every event this year for the ESPN, it would have been over $1,000 a year.
Yep.
This is $59.99 a year if you subscribe in the next month or so. So I mean that's a
the with ad version, right?
with that, and I think it's 120 if you
120.
use the without ad, the premium one. So even that's a 10%, of what you were paying last year to do the same thing. So huge win for the fans. I think it's in that regard, it's awesome. And it's just it's such an extreme turnaround.
Yeah. What's
And you get
interesting,
Contender Series, you get Tough, you get
Yep.
their growing archive. So I don't know if that means like just the stuff that was on Paramount and then they'll archive it. But it seemed to say that was going to start to launch January 2nd. So I'm assuming there'll be old UFC stuff too, but I guess we'll have to wait and see about that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you clarified that because I was going into it thinking, because when I read the screen wrong, or when I was looking at it, I thought to get access to all the live events that you had to be on the premium level. But when I looked at what you shared, you do get access to all those numbered, the Big Ten events, the
Yep.
replacement for the pay-per-views, all that are going to be on the lower tier ad supported tier. So I thought at one point that you were forcing them to do the 120, which is still less than 1.5 pay-per-views. I did the one, I went and did the yearly because I was kind of part of me was thinking, okay, well, if they change it halfway through the year, let me just lock in my year right now. Let me just jump on it now. And who knows if they eventually do it. I think if they get the viewership like they want, I could see where they stay on it. They haven't said anything like this is your introductory rate or anything along those lines. But I got to wonder if they don't get the viewer count, at some point you would think that they would raise it. I think I give them a little leeway because I still think the pricing is incredible for what we're actually getting, because of anybody that's ever bought multiple pay-per-views within a year, you're automatically thinking like, bro, this is a discount, like let's go. And then you get all the other shows and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see if they do change it. But for right now, I mean, it's incredible. I think anybody, granted, in the sea of apps and things out there that everybody and their brother seems to be doing, all those costs start to add up. And I can definitely see where somebody's like, well, if I'm not a big UFC fan, do I want to get Paramount Plus? I can see that in your thinking. But if you are a UFC fan, I don't see why you don't shell out the monthly or the yearly for this. I mean, you can't beat it for $120 for a year and no ads. Like, it's amazing. Like, it seems like a no-brainer, and especially with all the other, like you said, the Contender Series, which I think is one of my favorite things of all time. I just love that fight night because it's just so short and sweet and it's compact. I really like the fact that we're here at the Apex, because then it's super, super easy. And then I get to actually watch the fights live, and then I get to go work, which I never get to do. If it's like a regular fight night, I get to watch one fight, and then I got to go to the back. I tried to, let me take you behind the curtain. The last event, I tried to sit out there for two fights. And then you had that heavyweight fight that ended up going to a decision. I was like, there's no way these dudes are going to do whatever. I'm going to sit out here and I'm going to watch a second fight. I made it to the end of the second round. I was like, this is dragging on. I was like, let me just go back there because I feel like they're probably trying to bring this person back. As soon as I walked into the room and sat down, PR came over, and so they're like, did you want, I forget who was even the first one, but they're like, did you want to interview so-and-so? I was like, oh, I mean, yeah. And they're like, good, because they had already came to the room and nobody was back there. So they were like, we can bring her back. She's still back there. And I was like, okay, well, if she's still back there and she wants to do that, I was like, come on, bring her on in or whatever. But it was note to myself, because I even knew I never stay out there longer than one. I always go back because I know they want to bring somebody back. And if there's no partners and nobody to grab them, there's no medical things, like they're in the room pretty decently quick, unless for some reason the fighter wants to clean up or do whatever. But usually the early prelim people, they want to get out and get back to their room. They want to do whatever. But it's so funny because I was like, I wonder if I could stretch it a little bit. I was like, oh, it's a heavyweight. There's no way. And then sure enough, by the time I got back, they had already tried to bring him back, and I felt bad. But then I was like, all right, whatever. So we still interviewed her, and it was still fine. But I was like, see what I get? See what I get when I try to stretch it. So that's why I like the contenders, because I could watch the whole fight night and then go back there and work. So
yeah, that's a lot. I mean, when you think about it, the contenders and all that. Don't forget that PFL's deal with ESPN is going to end soon. You might end up seeing PFL on Paramount. That they could be a player too, and you might get that as part of your 59 as well. So if you're a combat sports fan,
crazy. It could
only get better, man.
It'll be interesting to see kind of what you just said a little bit, like the reaction, like how does this impact what other promotions, not even in MMA, but boxing too? Like, are people going to try to start switching to different models? Because, we just saw with the PFL card a couple of weeks ago, right? Like, you not only did you have to have ESPN Plus, but you had to have ESPN Unlimited, which you had to pay more money for. Yep. I got to remember to cancel my subscription for that. But yeah, I mean, even with boxing, right? Like people shelling out $80 for a pay-per-view, or they can, I'll just buy the UFC subscription for 120, like, and I get all the fights for the whole year. So it'll be interesting to see economically, like the little, maybe it's not to us like a direct competitor, but I think for the average Joe, those are the sort of decisions. Those are the sort of moves that can sway a lot of the peripheral people into watching one or the other.
Yeah. Do you get your ESPN just as a standalone? Or are you bundled? Like I've always had my ESPN bundled with like Disney and Hulu. But is your guys' just standalone? Because I know everybody was like, I've been hearing more and more people say like, oh, I got to get off the platform. And I was like, well, mine's bundled. I was like, it's not like I'm going to stop the bundle, but I wonder if there is a decent break to get out of it. I hate ads.
Yeah, I'm solo.
I hate ads. Are you
They're
solo?
not so bad though. Ads at first, I thought the same thing. And then I ended up getting one with ads. And what I realized was that's just your time to go to the restroom or go grab something to eat. You come back and you don't even watch the ad.
Is it a big difference price-wise?
I think so. It's usually like at least half.
Yeah. Maybe I'll consider that. But yeah, mine's bundled. I don't know if it would make it a bit harder to try to like get off the platform, because I still intend to watch ESPN stuff. But I think with the unlimited too, it allows you access to regular ESPN and ESPN2 as opposed to just ESPN Plus. I think that's the big difference too. So now you can watch some of the other stuff, whereas before I'm logged in as like my brother's. I'm under his family plan, so I use his YouTube TV account and allows me to watch the ESPN stuff. But now I don't think I need it with my current account. But whatever,
dude. YouTube with no ads, that is a game.
Oh yeah. I do that one.
That's a must.
Yeah, I do that one because I use the YouTube Music. I don't know if you guys have ever used the YouTube Music, but like you get that as a free added when you do the YouTube whatever premium, whatever it is that skips the ads. That's golden. That's big time. All right, well that's enough of the Paramount stuff. So I guess we'll shift to the what I alluded to at the beginning of the show. Did we see the greatest boxing event of the year last night? And what were your thoughts on the Jake versus Anthony Joshua bout that we saw last night? Who wants to jump on that one first?
It makes me so mad, you guys. I respect Jake Paul as far as being like making his money, duping everyone. I don't hate his hustle. I like that they got paid, but holy crap, man, just sitting through that every single time. I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I swear to you guys. But when it comes to Jake Paul, I honestly think he sat down and he got sick and tired of the fights are fixed. They're predetermined. And he thought, you know what? I need to lose. I need to get my ass kicked. But if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it against a big name. I'll do my best not to get knocked out. I'll run around for a couple rounds. I'll do a bunch of fouls, a couple things. Maybe the referee will stop the fight. And what are you doing? Why'd you do that? And then, but what it does is it kind of legitimizes himself a little bit in the eyes of all those people that say that. If he gets knocked out, then they go, oh, it really is real. That whole thing. It buys him like 2 maybe 3 more fights of fighting old MMA guys or whoever or other YouTubers. And I've always said this, the end game for this guy, when we can't take him anymore, when we're like, I've had it, somehow him and his brother are going to create a beef. They're going to talk about each other's girls. Then everybody's like, oh my God, they really hate each other. They're going to fight. That's where they're going to make all that money, and they'll ride off into the sunset. And they won't fight. It'll be a glorified sparring session. We'll all tune in. We'll eat it up. They'll barely hit each other. At the end, they'll hug each other. It took this fight for us to realize we really love each other and we're family. And that's that. And we'll never hear from them again. But that fight itself, man, it was just so boring and so stupid. We saw Anthony Joshua, the real Anthony Joshua, in the 5th round. To me, it was one of those where, hey, look, man, we're going to do this. You can fight after 5 rounds. Don't kill me in the first 4 rounds. That's what it looked like to me, because he looked like a completely different fighter.
Yeah, but to that, you have to give some credit to the fact that the layoff, what was it, 15 months, something along those lines?
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, like, granted, I know the guy's been sparring, he's been doing some training, but, you know, even hearing the commentary team and hearing other people, you know, and I don't know, that kind of keyed me off a little, or, you know, was one of the things that I noted in my head was like, a lot of people felt like he wasn't trying, like those hits were him like trying to, I even saw a video, a guy was like, oh, here's the work. See how Josh missed with his arm here. He did this shot here in his arm. If he really tried to hit him, he would have hit him. 15 months out of a real game time situation, I have to think affects your sharpness. And I felt like by the 5th round, one, Jake wasn't able to run. You know, I credit to him in their game plan of trying to, I felt like he was trying to run and then frustrate Anthony Joshua and then just be able to run in there and throw a jab. And then when all the guys kept saying like, oh, what a crappy round. There was 5 out of 7 strikes thrown and 4 out of 7 on the other side. I'm like, if one guy's constantly in motion and the other guy's even trying to cut off the cage, but you can't throw anything, you can't say like, oh, he had a really bad round because he couldn't throw rounds. If you don't have an opponent that's trying to box you, it's hard to have a boxing match, you know. But that being said, I think when it started getting closer in the rounds, I felt like he actually got to stretch his arms out and actually throw a little bit. But I do think that layoff played into his accuracy. And then once Jake got tired and couldn't move like he was, then he was able to, then, you know, I felt like he got his aim a little bit better, and maybe he warmed up in that point. You know, I think at that point he got like a proper sweat on. He had taken a couple shots that he was able to block from Jake Paul, and I think that kind of warmed him up to it. But I definitely didn't feel like it was like Joshua was not trying for the first rounds. I think it was, you know, even when he said it in the aftermath, like, you know, he's like, he was like saying how he was just like, I could tell what he was trying to do, but I wasn't going to, you know, get out of the game plan. I was still going to sort of adjust to what was going on. And then eventually my plan would work out, or I'd get those shots, you know? So I don't know. I definitely see where people felt like, you know, oh, he was just toying with his food. I definitely think the time off affected his performance for the beginning of that fight, but maybe I'm crazy. What do you think, Nolan?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, if we're talking about like the kind of, you know, carrying the fight, I don't want to say rigged, but, you know, kind of just hanging around.
That's the phrasing. People have been saying that he was carrying
I see the rig
fight.
thing a lot. But the carrying thing, maybe there was a couple times that I thought it was weird where it seemed like he maybe had Jake like kind of not up against the ropes in the sense that like Jake was really hurt, but he had him in a good position. And I thought he went to the body, which I thought was kind of weird. Maybe he had seen something in training where he thought he could do it. But like there was one time I remember Joshua like kind of hitting him in the back, and I was kind of like, that was kind of weird. But ultimately, like it was when that fight started, I think it really hit me, like the size difference, like the perceived skill difference. So I didn't hate that Jake was trying to do that game plan, but then also if you're going to do that game plan, the time to shine is in the 7th and 8th round. So if you pull a reverse Uno card on yourself where you know, the whole point of that was to gas out Joshua, and then all of a sudden you're the one sucking wind and can't get up. Like that's kind of pathetic, but I think we're all to blame here. I think I'm to blame. You two are to blame. Everybody that's listening to this, that even if you're listening to this thinking, oh, I really wish they weren't talking about this, there is a small amount of blame that you have with this as well, which is just, it always dominates like the combat sports world, right? There's people that hate that it's covered. I think a lot of the coverage interest we get in it is kind of, you know, hate clicks, essentially people that, oh, this shit again, click, like all sorts of stuff like that. But there is an element where I'm like, I can't be that mad if I went to the circus and the clown juggled rubber chickens instead of chainsaws. Like this was an event that was, you knew you were going to see something weird and something that didn't make sense, and then something that wouldn't add up in your brain. And then when you see it and it's not maybe as exciting as what you were expecting, I have also kind of a hard time of getting too mad about it. But yeah, I mean, again, I think his interest is starting to waver. The fact that this was a very like him going from fighting old MMA fighters to journeyman boxers to then all of a sudden like a legitimate heavyweight that's terrifying. I think that was the appeal here. I think now if I'm Jake Paul, this is the time to try MMA. And I know Goze is going to probably get up and walk off and leave the building. But if you want to get people to care again, I don't know if you can go back to fighting journeyman. And I don't think it makes sense for you to fight a Joshua type, because we already just saw you couldn't handle it. So I think now is the time if he's going to do MMA. If I'm him, this is it. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the amount of takedowns he was attempting during this fight, you could definitely see that it looked like his takedown game was, I guess at that point, you could say Anthony Joshua's takedown defense was pretty good last night. He never got taken down. He got tripped up and pulled down, early on. I wonder if there was something in the contract that if there, we've seen that in other fights of Jake's where he's put like something in the contract where these MMA guys they would get penalized or, whatever, if they actually did an MMA move.
They get fined.
Yeah. If Jake really wanted to be, to get out of that fight, he could have attempted a couple more takedowns and got disqualified. Would that have maybe penalized him and fined him? I don't know if maybe there was something in that, or maybe he would have just been like, I'll never live this up. I'll never be able to fight again a boxing match if I try to do this, and that's the way I get myself disqualified. Are you guys surprised by that, or do you think it was it a fight or flight moment? I mean, why do you think, was it just cardio? I mean, like, it definitely looked early on. I would say by the third round, it looked like it was affecting Jake, and parts of that could be to the body shots, but it wasn't like there were a lot of body shots that landed. He was running so much. I think that just attributed, and then it started making you wonder, and like, I know he said he was lifting heavy, so he was gaining muscle, he was gaining strength for this fight, but it makes you wonder if your game plan is centered around cardio, how much cardio work did he actually do? Because it felt like by the third or so, it was starting to, waver. But again, cardio, running on the track, running on a treadmill is very different than running and having your adrenaline through the roof and having a guy coming at you and you're clenching your body, you're constantly moving, you're overthinking, you're using a lot of excess energy, more so than just doing cardio. So while we say he's running around and he's doing cardio, there are more factors, weighing into why he was tired. But were you a little surprised by how many times he went down and grabbed the legs? I was I was like, I can't believe this is happening again.
Mm-hmm. I was shocked that the referee let it happen that many times. I mean, who was looking for a way out too? I think, in my opinion, was the referee. Did you hear his count? His count was the count that we would do when we were kids and we would play hide and go seek. And everybody's within earshot. So you start and you go 1, 2, 3. But once they're kind of like far away, it turns into 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like he wanted out of there too. Because he knew he was
different on a couple. I remember kind of noting that out, because when he would actually start verbally saying, it was like, oh, we're at 6 now, and then 7 and then 8. And then I think Jake was trying to get up for that last one, but I think the count caught him a little bit on that one.
It was,
I think he was expecting him to start at 5 again, like he did like previous ones.
I think that referee knew he was going to have to enforce some rules at some point, and he didn't want to be the guy that has to stop the fight by disqualification. So I think he just thought, you know what, let's just get everybody out right now. This is not looking good. But yeah, him doing that over and over, like when there's no hope and you're doing any type of sport, whether you're a cornerback getting burned by the same wide receiver over and over again, or in basketball, you're guarding somebody who's constantly using you, it will drain your everything, your body. Like there's no hope. And I think that's what happened to Jake Paul's body, is he knew there's no way I'm going to beat this guy. Maybe I can survive. And I think his body just gave out.
I did appreciate the referee telling the fighters he got an easy like brownie points from everybody by telling them the fans didn't pay to see this crap, which was like one of the more out of pocket like lines from a ref ever. Yes. It was the like when it happened too. I thought it was hilarious. Like I thought, you hear a ref say, "Okay, guys, we need action," whatever, but for him to phrase it that way. I will give him a shout out for that funny moment.
Going off of that, and I want to just share a shout out from JMO, who is in the middle of taping the CFFC, who just reached out and he says he hoped that we blamed him a bunch of times for missing the show. So no, we didn't blame you too much, JMO. We threw you under the bus just enough. Speaking of the ref, when he was saying these things in the takedowns, I often, you look at the crowd, you look at the people sitting outside the cage. Did anybody like myself watch Nikisa just losing his mind every time that Jake would attempt these takedowns, and then, Anthony Josh would just kind of sit there, push his head away, like, come on. And then you see the ref say something, and then Nikisa was almost like, he pushed him down, he threw him down, was like trying to defend what Jake was doing by some reason. And it was driving me crazy. I remember I was just like, calm down. I get it. This is your business partner, but like, stop. But tell me if I hope I'm not misquoting it. In the post presser, did he say that it was all about the size difference? It wasn't a technicality difference between the two, why the fight played out. It was just purely a size difference.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that?
Skill. It had nothing to do with skill.
Nothing to do with skill.
That was the craziest pro wrestling manager moment of all time, dude.
Especially too, where it was like a cardio issue, if you wanted to call it anything. If you wanted to blame skill, if you wanted to say, oh, it wasn't skills, like his gas tank when it was on empty for like a round and a half. So I don't think that would be a size difference, but what do I know? Because
you figured the big guy would be the guy that lost the gas
totally.
tank.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
But I guess, one last on it. I mean, was it fun? Was it worthwhile? Was it a crazy? Were you guys just glad that there was something to watch last night? I know you had to work, Nolan. I was able to just kind of watch. But at the end of the day, are you guys glad that it happened? Does it matter? I mean, we like, it's just the way of the times. We're going to see more of these types of fights in the future. I mean, were you overall, when somebody says, did you watch the fight and did you have a good time watching it? Did you have a good time watching the event last night?
Look at Goze. Look how happy he is that he watched it.
Well, because a lot of times we complain about the schedule, but then when we get free time, we don't know what to do with ourselves.
Yes.
And so I was in that moment where I was like, well, what else am I going to do? So I tuned in.
Yes.
And Kenny's right to a certain. It's kind of fun to like watch people around the ring, to go on social media and see what people are saying. Like that kind of cracks me up. Maybe I did have a good time. Looking back, I laughed a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. I honestly was like, again, it's going to be hard. I'm very fatigued with the influencer boxer thing. Even seeing like Anderson and Tyron Woodley, like I love Anderson. I'll watch him fight, but he's like an exception. You know what I mean? I think I'm very fatigued with the old MMA guys going to boxing thing.
Yeah.
The Paul versus Joshua had that initial intrigue to me because of what I perceived as a size and skill difference. So I was glad I watched it. I'm glad it came with my Netflix subscription. I mean, again, win for the consumer, right? Say that you didn't like what you saw. You didn't spend $80 extra bucks for it. You just watched something you already had. You could shut it off at any time, right? So I was happy to watch it. It was a unique thing. And again, do I want to watch 1,000 of them? Will I get super fatigued of it at some point? Probably. But for last night, I thought for like you said, Kenny, there's a lot going on at these events. So you can have some fun with it, even in the misery.
Yeah, and just a couple more questions. I talk about that before I just help you guys wrap this up. You brought up, I think you brought up Anderson Silva. You brought his name up and said, like, what were you guys' thoughts on the Anderson Silva versus Tyron Woodley fight? Did you think it should have went on a little bit more? Did you think it was just inevitable? What were your thoughts on that? And did the guy that you thought was going to win? I thought Silva was going to win, but I don't know what you guys thought going into it. And what were your thoughts on that bout?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there's two things that stuck out. One is that Anderson Silva, the fact that he's 50 years old and is still able to do that. And I know Tyron's 43 and has not done particularly well in boxing, but for him to be able to still do things that you're like, his fast twitch muscles are crazy. I mean, the fact that he faked that kick almost, which I thought was so unique. And then he kind of shifted his stance even after that and hit the uppercut from his knees.
That uppercut was ridiculous.
He's so like, for the fans that are newer and the the COVID fans, I never hold it against somebody of when they fell in love with the sport, but I really think for me there'll never be another Anderson Silva sort of run in the sport that I witnessed. He was just so special. So that was the first observation. Then the second, to answer your question about the stoppage, I actually really liked the stoppage. compared to what we saw a few weeks earlier with the same commission with Sam Alvey and Robellis at Karate Combat. Yeah. I thought that was a very similar thing that was going on, right? Where the guy gets knocked down, he gets up, he's really not giving the referee any sign, like not putting his hands up. The referee's telling him to fight and he doesn't do it. You know, that's the guy's not defending himself. He's not fighting back. Fight's over. So I know it's not the best, right? You'd love to have like a clean knockout or see the fight go a little bit more. But I think for the fighter's safety, if he's not showing the ref the simple motion that he's going to put his gloves up and try more, that's where the referee, that's your responsibility to help that fighter out. So shout out to that referee who does a lot of bare knuckle. His name is Sam Burgos. So shout out to him.
Well, it's interesting because I need to go back and watch it because I felt like we had moved on beyond the point of where the ref had seen enough to allow, because I felt like he was like, stand up. He was looking at him. You want to continue? Yep. Walk forward a little bit. And then you see Tyron start to like acknowledge Anderson like they were going to like touch gloves and like, let's go again. And it was at that point that the ref was like, okay, no. And I was like, what did he see? And that I thought he had already said that he was good or moved on. I was like, why right then, you know, instead of like walk towards me and then immediately wave it off. I felt that there was that odd space in there. So I don't know. I need to go back and watch it. Maybe
me too.
Maybe it was shorter than what I thought, or maybe the ref didn't get the acknowledgement of he still wants to get it. He's not paying attention to my commands or whatever. I felt like he did, but I was a little surprised. And that's why I think Woodley, you know, was a little bit shocked. But honestly, he was hurt. He was hurt bad. He was shook right before the fight, the final shot that dropped him. So I think it was going to happen that way. And I just felt like there was a lot of lead up for that because we didn't see Anderson. Anderson was taking his time, was kind of stalking him down. And I was like, I kind of want to just see him throw some more. But that, like you said, that uppercut, that was just kind of a weird, like almost like when he was like doing weird martial arts stuff, when he would just have these strikes that was just uniquely come out of nowhere from weird angles. That's what this felt like. And it was like an anime move that you're like, this will never work. I'm going to throw this uppercut like this. This is never going to work. And it worked. And I was just like, what is going on? Only Anderson could pull that off. Anybody else would just missed. You would have just looked awkward and thrown like a weird looking uppercut. And it would have missed, but it was just crazy. But Goze, your thoughts on that bout?
I thought it was like a punch out character move, and the thing he did with his leg.
What's a punch out move?
It was right, and it kind of distracted me from seeing just how hard he hit him, because when I watched it real time, I didn't realize that the uppercut had hit him that hard until we saw the replay, and I was like, oh my god, that did hit him pretty solid. Tyron Woodley, I mean, when we get to an end of a fight, when does he ever agree with the situation, whatever has happened, right? Like that's almost every fight. So I couldn't really take too much off of that. But I guess looking back, the referee probably did save him from something way worse. But it's always fun to kind of see Anderson out there. It's Tyron Woodley, you got to give him props for taking that fight on short notice. But the fight didn't really have much oomph because nobody ever really wondered what would happen if these two fought, let alone boxed, right? And so there's no heat or nothing. So it's just two guys in there. But I appreciate Anderson Silva, what he's able to do at this age, and I'm happy that they're collecting checks.
Yeah, well, and it certainly seemed like both guys said that they're not really done yet. Is that news to your ear, or does it just make you shake your head when both guys kind of like, you know, I'm not done. I kind of still feel like whatever. You didn't get to see what I thought you were going to see in there, but I'm not done yet. Is that you're shaking your head or what? You
think about like, well, what is left? Because we're not asking very many questions. I know with Anderson, there's Weidman, and there is a story there, but I don't know that anybody's really like, we have to see it. So I don't know. I don't know where all this, like $92 million for two guys each. Where is this money? I don't understand this business, the way it works, where they get this money. And then the subscription count, like, I don't know, dude. I got to imagine if Anderson Silva's not getting $92 million, but he's probably not getting chump change, right? Like, I don't understand how they do this.
Yeah.
Me neither. It would be really interesting if I know this will probably never happen with the way things are going in the world, but it would be interesting if those boxing purses, MMA purses were available like they used to be. Because even now the states that disclose, like they do all sorts of tricks to get the full amount's not out there. I think that's like when Jake fought in California, they had him listed as 300,000, but I mean, he's getting all sorts of signing bonuses and pay-per-view revenue and all that sort of stuff that, you know, I'm sure he was making significantly more than that if I think he fought De La Hoya there, or no, not De La Hoya, Cesar Chavez there. And they had him listed at like 950,000. So, Paul's making millions.
Yeah.
So we'll never know for sure, but it would be interesting to know like the actual figures behind these events, especially with Netflix involved.
And I wonder if a lot of times too, it's just the fact of, because, a lot of these commissions take a percentage of the purse, to administer the events. I wonder if a lot of times that's just a way of getting around paying a huge administration fee, if you will, for these commissions, more so than just hiding the money,
Somebody explained to me, so they think the part of it was maybe like the disclosure thing where, fighters that the UFC or whoever boxing felt that they maybe gave, I guess basically the idea was, like other people in the industry won't be able to say, well, Tyron Woodley got this amount last time, like it kind of pushes that sort of competition down. But also, I know with the UFC, they do they call them side letters of agreement. So if somebody steps up on short notice to save a main event, they might be on the same contract that they've always been on, but the UFC will say, hey, we'll give you $500,000 extra dollars, whatever, $200,000 extra dollars in this side letter thing. And so they do it in Nevada where there's no state taxes. They'll do things like that as well. So the fighter, it benefits the fighter, right? They don't have to pay the California state tax. They can do Nevada. And it benefits the UFC because it won't be part of public record as well. So I think that is a big part of it too, is that they can do it in different states.
I remember I asked Dana White once, I was like, because I remember somebody stepped up and I said, which of these two fighters that are stepping up to save the day are getting the bigger paycheck? Who's getting more for saving the day? And he's like, what are you talking about? They already got the contracts. It's already a set amount, I was like, brother, all right, fine, whatever. Don't tell me who fucking made out, because I know one of them had to make out more so than the other one, but regardless.
For sure.
We dare I try to ask that question. And the last thing for that event, I know, Nolan, you said you love influencer fighting, but I got to see what your guys' thoughts on the whole Andrei Arlovsky and that whole influencer fight rumble, whatever that was, that we saw the video come out. Were you surprised that Andre kept his phone in his hand while still throwing punches? I was surprised he did not drop it. I was like, good on him. But is that the state of where we are these days? And now at sporting events, you got influencers trying to start fights with Andrei Arlovsky. And do you think that they knew who he was and that's why it happened? Or did they just pick the wrong big, gigantic man to try to start shit with? How do you think this all came about? I don't know if we know the genesis. Maybe I didn't. I just saw the video, laughed about it. I didn't try to well, how did this start? But was that did you guys see the clip? And I guess what were your thoughts on this influencer, some more influencer boxing going on last night?
Yeah, I of course saw the clip. Yeah, I mean, that's this influencer, Jack Doherty. That's his, for people that aren't familiar. I'm unfortunately familiar with his work. I've seen some of his clips on social media, but his big thing is going to places and bumping into people and trying to get a reaction. And then his bodyguard will jump in and, some poor guy walking his kids at the beach gets shouldered by some little twerp and then says something to the guy. And all of a sudden there's a 6'8" ripped guy in his face. And what are you going to do? Huh? No, you're not going to do anything. So
I'm surprised. I didn't see that guy in the clip. I didn't see him stepping up last night. It was standing weird.
About 10 feet back, just spectating. But, Jack Doherty posted, watch the clip. I didn't do it. I didn't start that. But, I mean, come on. Who are we giving the benefit of the doubt here? So it was one of the more satisfying things I've watched. And it was about one action away from being the most satisfying thing that I ever watched in 2025. So that's the only downside, was that it didn't get taken to that S tier level for me.
Mm-hmm. When you haven't seen family for a long time and an uncle comes out of a car and about 4 or 5 kids go, "Oh, Uncle Kenny," and they come running, and then he just kind of shrugs them off, as they're trying to get. That's what it looked like, dude. He was just bouncing people left and right. But you know what, man? One day, one of these influencers, it's already happened a couple of times, but they're gonna get. It's going to be a disaster, dude. They got lucky with Andre, because Andre does not mess around, dude.
It's so funny because I've seen the clips where his bodyguard manhandles these little kids or something like that, and it was just fun. I thought it was funny that he was 10 feet away, backing away with Jack hiding behind him, nowhere near getting in, to whatever. I could see where he's like, my job is to take care of this guy behind me, even though that he or whoever started or something. But there was a part of that where I was just like, yeah, the guy finally sees a legit opponent, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna bully this one. I'm just gonna do my actual job over here. That guy deserves an ass whipping at some point too. Jack does for sure, but his security guard most definitely deserves a proper ass whipping for what he's done to some of these little dudes. But yeah, crazy. But yeah, I saw that clip and I was like, it was almost so close to being so just amazing. It was just like, I wanted Andre. I was like, come on, one solid. But just the way he like threw the dude to the ground and then tried to throw, and then you see his buddies like scurrying and then pulling him away for dear life. I was just like, because yeah, if Andre wanted to really do something and follow up, he threw punches to kind of get the kids away from him, the little shit talkers. But if he wanted to pursue and actually hurt them, he could have, and he didn't, so good on Andre. But yeah, I was just like, it was so close to seeing something really fun last night. But
what's crazy though, Kenny? Like, let's say he just lands one of the craziest strikes ever, but breaks his hand. He just signed to fight Ben Rothwell.
That's true.
There goes the Ben Rothwell fight, right? So,
well, I bet he would still fight. Yeah, as long as the commission would let him. That's another one too. And I was thinking about that Woodley and Silva, they want to keep going. At some point, the commission's not going to authorize a 50-plus-year-old male to fight, right?
Look at Tyson, dude.
Hope so.
How old was Tyson though?
Tyson's like 50. How old is Tyson? Let's see.
I guess that's true. Tyson was even older. Yeah.
And months before, like, he had to be rushed off of a plane, right? Like, I mean,
so I guess there's always some commission that's willing to say, okay, yeah, you can.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it a couple years ago with Evander Holyfield and Vitor, right? Who was it? No, was it supposed to be?
Oh my goodness gracious!
Was that who it was? Was it supposed to be De La Hoya at one point?
De La Hoya was going to be fight Vitor, I think.
Vitor, yeah.
But Evander, they were just, this guy's 59.
And they moved it to Florida, right?
Yeah. That's so crazy.
Anything goes there.
Unreal. Well, fellas, I know we broached the hour. I said I was going to keep it for 30 minutes. I know what are you guys doing with this? I know as for over at Junkie, we're always going to be covering and making some stuff happen, until the next time we see the fights. The next fight for the UFC isn't until January. We got the holidays coming up next week. You guys got any big plans for Christmas, New Year's coming up? Anything special going on? Any shout outs you want to say or anything you got going on before we wrap up here?
I'm doing my 48 by 48 list. I'm picking 48 things I want to accomplish by the time I turn 48 in September. So I'm going to be doing the next 2 days. I'm going to map that out. It's going to be kind of a small holidays. My parents are actually coming out here to Vegas, which never happens.
Nice.
It'll be more low key, but yeah, that'll be my job this day, these coming days. But you
dig it. I'm looking forward to see what your 48 by 48 list is.
Well, last year one of them was beat Soda Popinski and Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I've never been able to do it. I finally did it, so I crossed that one out. Little things like that.
Yeah, that's a tough one though. I don't know if I'd put stuff I couldn't actually accomplish on the list.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough one. What about you, Nolan? What you got going on?
Yeah, I'm taking about a week off from work, which I don't usually do, but usually towards the end of the year is when I'll pull some MTO days, as they call them, right? So between like Christmas and New Year's, I'm off from work, so I probably go skiing a bunch. I started trying to learn last year, and towards the end of
I didn't know that.
Yeah, towards the end of my friends are all super into it, and they were always trying to get me to go, and I just felt like during the winter, if they're going every weekend, it's good to be able to see people at the end of the week, have something to look forward to. So started learning towards the end of last year. I felt like I was starting to kind of get my legs under me. I was able to do some of the easier runs for like the real people runs, not just like the beginner mountain sort of stuff. And
that's awesome.
But then now I haven't gone yet this season yet. So I'm interested to see how much my muscle memory is lacking and how much I have to learn back. So, but I'm going to go a handful of times, I think, in the next 10 days or so.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yep. I didn't picture you as a skier, but now I see it. I can see it. Do it while your limbs are still flexible enough that when you fall, you're not just going to immediately hurt yourself, which is what I feel like I would do if I tried.
Dude, it's weird. Everybody always said like, it's hard to learn skiing when you're, not a kid or, when you're in your 20s, 30s. But I actually didn't think it was that hard to at least get kind of the basics down. I'm sure like if I took some lessons and stuff, they'd be telling me I do everything wrong. But I think it must have plugged into like when I was younger, I used to skate. I used to play I played like 1 year of hockey when I was like 5. And I almost wonder if like muscle memory, when I was out there, like there were certain things that I think just kind of come to you if you've ever been somebody that knows how to skate on ice skates. There are some similar elements. So I would encourage anybody that's on the fence about learning, even if you're not 20 years old, to give it a shot, because the rumors were not true. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to pick up.
That's awesome. We know you're on there for just the ski bunnies. I've seen all the movies from the 80s. There's ski bunnies, very attractive ladies just skiing, looking for single guys from Boston trying out that need tips, and that I can see the movie already happening.
Yeah.
He's going to be texting me later for what were you going to say, Goze?
80s ski wear and movies is next level. Like that was so cool to watch.
Yeah. Kenny's going to be texting me later today asking about different equipment and stuff.
Like, how do I get started? What can I do? I would be the guy that lived up to the one rundown and somehow my leg is dislocated and ripped off my body after I ran into a tree or something. But gentlemen, thank you so much for filling in tonight. Those you guys listening, feel free to give John grief about skipping out, but luckily I have some great friends that were able to hop on in here. And no, you don't have to give him too much grief. He's a busy man. He's a busy guy. But thanks, guys, so much for hopping on here. And John will be back next week. We'll figure out what day. I don't think there's any CFFC stuff, but I could be wrong. But we'll get back to it like normal. But again, it was wonderful having you guys hop on in here, and everybody that hearing this, if we don't see you beforehand, have a great Christmas. Enjoy the time with your family. It's a very, very important time. Again, hug your loved ones and enjoy that time. It's very, very special. Again, thanks again. And thanks for listening.